Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast, where we explore the powerful connection between mindfulness, meditation, and personal transformation. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Blair Abbey, an author, poet, educator, consultant, and ordinary mystique whose deep exploration into meditation has helped countless people on their journey of personal development. Blair has written 5 award winning books available on Amazon and dozens of articles on meditation, manifestation, and more. Blair's life journey took a major turn after a traumatic experience at work where he blew the whistle on unethical behavior, which cost him a 25-year career. But from that moment, listeners, he used his meditation practice to not only survive, but thrive, developing new and improved meditation techniques that offer vibrant ways of coping with life's challenges. And today on the Mindful Living podcast, he's here to share how these techniques work and why they can make such a profound difference in our lives. So let's dive into the fascinating world of higher consciousness and explore Blair's unique meditation techniques. So, Blair, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us.
Oh, thank you. I've been looking forward to our conversation.
So, Blair, your journey of discovering new meditation techniques was born from a very difficult period in your life. So, can you tell us a little more about that experience and how it inspired you to develop higher consciousness meditation?
Sure. Um, I moved from the east coast of the U.S. to the west coast of the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Down into San Diego to take a major um, new job. And it turned out my boss was a psychopath. I mean, she was just ruining our program. She was abusing employees. She was mishandling funds. And after a while, I just couldn't put up with it anymore and went to the authorities to let them know what was going on. An investigation was done. She was fired, but they fired me too because they said I was a troublemaker. Well, I guess in a way I was because I made trouble for them by exposing the problem that they hadn't really been paying attention to. Um, and as you said, it ended a 30-year, 25-year career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I took a deep dive into my meditation practice really for therapy, and I started journaling.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, after a couple of months of doing that, I began to have kind of an awakening, realizations, things came to me. I'd started doing yoga back when I was 24 years old. Um, but through all of the yoga and the meditation and so forth that I'd done, I really never had what I would consider an experience of illumination or soul contact. But during that period of time, I really had an experience of soul contact, experience of higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And as I wrote and wrote and wrote, I realized that I had material for some books and began putting the material together in book form. And now I've done 6, 7 books. And have a few more in the works.
Mm-hmm.
Really chronicling my journey, my understandings, and even some new meditation techniques that I developed.
That's really, really encouraging, Blair. So, you have been practicing meditation for many years, as you said. So,
Yes.
what sets your new and improved techniques apart from the traditional meditation practices?
Traditional meditation practices have a tendency to focus on mind training and trying to train the mind to be quiet. But unfortunately, it's a little bit like training a wild horse because the mind doesn't really want to be trained. It really wants to be in charge. It wants to constantly be chatter, 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 chatter. It wants to explore the past and it wants to explore the future. But it doesn't really want to be in the now, and it doesn't want to be quiet. So the meditation techniques that I've developed, both sit down meditation and mindfulness meditation, are really intended to bypass trying to train the mind and going directly to an experience of what I would call illumination. My sit down meditation technique is one that has some steps along the way. And at the end of that, in most cases, people express that, yes, in fact, they begin to get a sense of what illumination is about. And the mind naturally, in a state of illumination, is quiet. It can't exist, if you will, or it can't function, if you will, in a state of illumination. So, and the same is true of the mindfulness techniques that I've developed, especially if I focused on what I call sacred senses, like sacred seeing, for example. I went to the grocery store yesterday, and before I went in, I just reminded myself to shift my consciousness as I walked in to a higher state of vibration, if you will. And as I was there and just looking around, it was as if the whole place began to spiritualize in a way. And I was seeing people in from a shifted state of awareness or of consciousness, which is really beautiful because you can really see the essence of people when you're in that state of awareness, as opposed to just looking at them and judging them for being, too tall or too short or too big or too small, or, whatever judgments we make about people when we're around them. So it's kind of a different way of negotiating life, if you will. It's a different way of dealing with this three-dimensional reality that we live in and spiritualizing it or bringing spirit into it. And it shifts awareness, and part of the suffering that Buddha used to talk about begins to fade a little bit. And just a sense of well-being begins to occur. So that's the whole purpose of doing these sorts of things, is to get it into, number one, a state of well-being, but also to experience higher consciousness.
That's really very unique. And you often describes, us, we the humans, as both three-dimensional characters on Earth and five-dimensional beings having an eternal experience.
Yes.
So how does this dual perspective influence your meditation approach?
Well, the first thing to say about that is that we're all sort of indoctrinated, almost put to sleep from our birth into thinking that we're three-dimensional beings, that we have to scratch for a living, that we have to try and survive and do whatever we can to make it, and to somehow come out on top as three-dimensional beings. But one of the things I began to realize, experience really, was that higher consciousness part of myself as being the container, if you will, in which my body was operating, and that what I was it was like a driver of a car, this very complicated machine, that I occupy, but that machine wasn't me. The machine was not. It was what I need to negotiate the world, but it really wasn't consciousness. It wasn't awareness. It wasn't the essence of me. And so that's what the meditation practices, and every meditation practice really also has that as a purpose, I think, beyond mind training.
Mhm.
But not a lot of people end up experiencing that. But I think that's the awakening um, that our master teachers have talked about. All of them have talked about that, the
Mhm.
awakening process and how they awakened, and then they point us in the direction of how we can awaken as well. So I think that that's kind of what they're about, and that's what they were encouraging us to be about.
Hmm. Great. That's really great. And many people see meditation as a path to inner peace, but you also emphasize its role in manifestation. So, how do your techniques help people create real change in their lives?
Yes. Um, like with traditional meditation, I also delved into manifestation and some of the techniques that are used with manifestation, beginning with The Secret some years ago. And what I found was that those techniques were often ego bound. It was about manifesting a BMW in your driveway, or it was
Mhm.
about using vision boards to try and visualize something that you want and to really focus on it. And if you focused on it well enough, or if you ask God properly, that thing would come to you. Well, I realized after a while that there was some foolishness about that, and that it didn't work very well. So the manifestation technique that I developed, that really my soul or my higher consciousness showed me, was a technique that kind of goes like that. I'll give it to you real quick. Um, I ask. So it's an ask as opposed to a demand or a dictation of what I want. I ask for the best possible outcome as it relates to my transportation needs, and then pause. Often a breath comes,
Mhm.
and my sense is that spirit is engaged, that my higher consciousness, that my soul has engaged. And then I thank soul, or I thank higher consciousness for its involvement in my life.
Hmm.
Now, that's about as simple as it can be, but it's really quite profound because number one, ask and you shall receive. That was something that I learned way back when I was a kid.
Mhm.
Didn't understand what it meant, but I remember hearing that. And you ask for, in very general terms, what it is you might have a need for, like transportation. I might not need a new BMW. I might need a truck.
Hmm.
If what I do is turn over that sense of needing something to spirit and let spirit work it out,
Mhm.
there's every possibility the outcome is going to be better than I can even imagine. But certainly the outcome will be something that allows me to grow and to evolve and to not dictate, but instead to ask and then allow and receive, allow it to unfold in a way that would be beneficial for everybody concerned.
Hmm. Wow, that sounds very effective. And for those who are new to meditation or struggling to maintain consistency, Blair, what advice or tips can you offer to help them incorporate higher consciousness meditation into their daily lives?
Um, I can say that from my own practice, what I do is to do a sit down meditation for 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes in the morning and 10 or 15, 20 minutes in the evening. And that during the day, I will incorporate then some mindfulness techniques of different types um, that remind me. So I'll have an experience of elevated consciousness or of elevated awareness when I do the sit down meditation. And then I use the mindfulness techniques to kind of trigger me to remember
Uh,
who I am, to remember myself. To so I have a little angel that I put right by door going out of the house, and I touch it every time I go out as a reminder, it's a trigger. So, in a way, mindfulness techniques are triggers to remember. So, whether it's touching my little angel or remembering to say to myself, peace, be still, or whether it's um, remembering as I interact with my wife to see her from a bigger perspective, see her from a spiritual perspective. These are all triggers, and after a while, if you do these as practices, they become second nature and they begin to work, and you begin to get a sense of your vibratory rate lifting by doing these things. And that, in fact, is what I think causes manifestation to occur. Things are attracted to you by virtue of your vibratory rate, law of attraction.
Lovely. And finally, where can listeners start if they want to try your techniques, Blair? Do you have any resources like guided meditations or exercises to help them begin their journey?
I do. One thing is, I'll be happy to send your listeners a copy of my mindfulness book. We'll put this in the show notes.
Yep.
And they can just go to my website, which is highcmeditation.com. It's HI meditation.com. And they can get there are blog posts there and sample chapters and various things that you can do while you're there. And you can also go and sign up for a copy of the mindfulness book. Also, you can go to Amazon Books and get one of the books or several of the books if you like at Amazon Books as well.
Lovely. We'll definitely mention all the details in the show notes for our listeners to start with. And one question I would like to ask before we wrap up. So,
sure.
Or meditation techniques, they seem to offer both spiritual depth and practical tools. So, how do you balance the mystical aspects of your practice with the day-to-day realities that people face?
Well, the nice thing about meditation is that if you're stressed, meditation can help. If you're worried, meditation can help. So it can help with day-to-day self-management. And in the process, as you begin to deepen your meditation practice, naturally a spiritual component of it begins to arise. It just because spirit wants you to interact with it. Yeah. Your soul wants to be your friend. It wants to be your companion. So that part of it naturally happens, but that usually happens after you've been doing it for a while and you've been able to take advantage of the practical aspects of meditating and just calming yourself down and being yourself, being real, being in the moment, and beginning to enjoy your life and not suffering so much.
True. That's very true. Well, Blair, that was definitely a very, very inspiring and very, incredible conversation. So we'll definitely mention all the details in the show notes for our listeners to learn more about Blair's work. Be sure to check out his books on Amazon and explore his articles on meditation and personal growth. And Blair, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your incredible insights into meditation and help us understand how these new techniques can help us thrive even in the most challenging and tough times.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste to all of you. And if you have enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit from these powerful meditation techniques.